I'm Dylan Brooks. I'm 35. And for the last 6 years, I've been called a waste of potential by people who barely understand what I do. I didn't drop out of college. I didn't blow my savings on some failed dream. I just chose a different path. One that didn't involve suits, promotions, or office politics. I fix things. I build furniture. I design by hand and cut by instinct. I work with wood. I own a small workshop behind the house I inherited from my grandfather. And according to my sister-in-law, Kayla, that means I'm still figuring life out. Last Sunday, I was at my brother Josh's house for dinner. That's become a regular thing. Monthly family dinners that feel more like job interviews than get-togethers. Kayla made steak fajitas, and the smell should have made me feel warm and welcome. But I knew what was coming. It always comes. She set the plate down in front of me, sat across the table, and tilted her wine glass like a judge about to hand out a sentence. "You know what your problem is, Dylan?" she asked, smiling like she was doing me a favor. "You're stuck. That workshop, it's not a plan. It's a stall. You could be doing so much more." I didn't answer. I just chewed and nodded. I've learned that silence stretches longer than arguments. Kayla always fills the quiet with her own voice. This Airbnb cabin network I'm working on, it's growing like crazy. People are begging for authentic, handcrafted interiors. If you sold that patch of land behind your house, we could build 3 micro cabins there. I've got the architects, the investors, even the license templates. All I need is the land. It's just sitting there, Dylan. Josh jumped in with his usual half smile. "She's got a point, man. I mean, you're good with your hands, but it's not sustainable long-term, right?" That one cut deeper than he knew. Because I am sustainable. I'm what keeps 6 other hands employed. I'm what keeps our local hardware store in business. I'm what gives ex-cons in this town a place to learn a trade without being judged for a background check. But I didn't say any of that. I took a sip of water and asked Kayla, "And what would happen to my shop?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "Dylan, it's a shed. A decent one, sure, but you're not running a business in there. It's a hobby. You'd make way more renting it out as storage space, honestly." I felt something cold press into my chest. Not anger, resignation. Like the realization that no matter what I built, no matter how many hours I spent sanding down imperfections and hauling reclaimed beams from across the state, they would never see it as work. To them, I was a man with calloused hands and no real plan. "So what would you need from me?" I asked. I wanted to see how far she'd take this. "Just the land," she said, tapping on her tablet to show me numbers she clearly didn't understand. "You could sell the lot, keep some equity, and be a partner in the cabins. We'd do the heavy lifting. You'd finally be part of something that grows. No offense, but your lifestyle? It's just small." Josh added, "We just want to see you move forward. You deserve more than, well, sawdust." That one stung. Not because it was cruel, but because it was stupid. I nodded slowly, letting the words settle like ash in my throat. "Maybe you're right," I said. Kayla's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yeah," I said. "Maybe it's time I think bigger." She smiled like she'd just won. Josh clapped me on the shoulder like I was a dog who'd finally learned a new trick. They didn't see the flicker in my eyes, the way my jaw tensed. Because they had no idea what I'd done with that land. No clue what was really behind the shed they'd never bothered to visit. And they sure as hell didn't know that 2 days earlier, I signed a pre-lease agreement with a nonprofit that would change everything. But I wasn't going to tell them that. Not yet. Instead, I turned to Kayla and said, "Why don't you come by next Saturday? I want you to see the place for yourself before I make any decisions." She grinned, thinking she'd finally converted me. I smiled back, but in my head, I was already planning her fall from certainty. Because if she thought I was just some guy in a shed, she was about to learn what I'd really built behind those doors. Kayla didn't waste time. The very next morning, I woke up to 5 texts, all from her. One had a link to a YouTube video titled "Build Passive Income with Modular Cabins." Another was a screenshot of some earnings report from a guy in Tennessee who turned half an acre into a weekend empire. Then came a spreadsheet, color-coded and way too optimistic, showing how I could triple my shed's value in just 18 months if I partnered smart. The fourth text hit different. It read, "Dylan, I say this with love. You're sinking. That shop isn't a future. It's a memory you're too scared to outgrow." I sat on my porch, phone in hand, watching the early fog roll off the hills, and for the first time in a while, I felt small. Not because I believed her, but because part of me knew she did. She truly thought I was wasting my life. And that hurt more than I expected. I've always been quiet, the kind of guy who listens more than he talks. When my parents passed 5 years ago, I buried my grief in sawdust and sanding oil, built every chair, every table, every damn cabinet like it was a prayer for peace. That shop behind the house? It wasn't just where I worked. It was where I survived. But Kayla never saw that. She never asked. To her, it was just a patch of land with no curb appeal. Later that week, she called. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me needed to hear what else she thought she knew about me. She jumped right in. "Okay, hear me out," she said. "I mapped it out. We can break ground this fall if we move fast. You'd walk away with equity, guaranteed income, and honestly, a life that's bigger than sanding chairs for a few bucks. I know you mean well, Dylan, but this isn't it. I don't want to see you drown in that workshop." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. But I felt something snap, quietly. Like the final thread in a rope that's been fraying for years. "I appreciate you looking out for me," I said. "Why don't you come by Saturday morning? I'll show you the whole place." She was thrilled, said she'd bring coffee and a copy of the investment breakdown. I said sure. Why not? Let her bring the paperwork. She'd need something to hold on to when the ground shifted under her. But that night, after hanging up, I sat in the dark for a long time. That text, "You're sinking," kept replaying in my head like a bad echo. And maybe what broke me wasn't the insult. It was the fact that she thought it wasn't an insult. Like she was just being real. That kind of fake concern. It sticks to you. Then came the twist. I was locking up the shop around 10 p.m. when a car I didn't recognize pulled up. 2 teenagers got out, holding clipboards and wearing matching hoodies from the local job placement program I'd partnered with. One of them, Tori, was one of my part-time interns. She looked shaken. "Hey, Mr. Brooks, I just thought you should know. Some lady came by this afternoon, said she was helping you convert the place into short-term rentals. She wanted to take measurements, said she was your project coordinator." I froze. "What?" "Yeah," she said. We didn't let her in, obviously, but she was asking a lot of questions. Even tried to peek through the windows. That was Kayla. While texting me how much she cared, she was out here trying to size up the property. Without me. That wasn't love. That wasn't concern. That was control. I stood there on the gravel, hands shaking, realizing she wasn't just pressuring me. She was making moves behind my back, talking to my tenants, pretending to be someone she wasn't. It stopped being about me the moment she tried to insert herself into what I'd built without even understanding it. This wasn't a misguided business pitch anymore. It was a full-blown attempt to hijack my life. And if she thought Saturday was going to be her big win, she had no idea the kind of reckoning waiting behind those workshop doors. I wish I could say Saturday came slow, that I had time to think it through. But truth is, I barely slept. I kept hearing her voice in my head, soft and sweet, but razor sharp. "You're drowning in that shop. It's not a real future. You're better than that, Dylan." And somehow, all those words sounded less like concern and more like a trap. Kayla showed up right at 9:55 a.m., early, dressed in business casual like she was headed to a client pitch. She brought a coffee for herself, none for me, and a canvas folder packed with printed spreadsheets and architectural renderings I didn't ask for. Josh trailed behind her, looking half awake and already regretting being there. He gave me that sheepish smile he always does when he knows Kayla's overstepping, but won't stop her. All right, she said, clapping once like this was a damn tour. Let's see the famous workshop. I led them around the side of the house to the outbuilding. From the front, sure. It looked like a large shed, metal roof, cedar siding, a little rough around the edges. But inside? Inside it was sacred. The lights clicked on. Rows of planers, jointers, routers, clamps. Raw oak, walnut, and ash stacked along the wall. Hand tools hung in perfect symmetry. On the back table, a set of custom chairs halfway through carving, commissioned by a boutique hotel in Bend. Behind them, shipping crates labeled and ready to go. Every piece built by hand. Everyone sold before it left the shop. Kayla walked in and stopped mid-step. Her face didn't say, wow. It said, wait, what? This is bigger than I expected, she admitted. Josh whistled low. Holy crap, man. I didn't reply. I just let them look. I thought you said it was just like a personal hobby setup, she said. You said that, I answered. She blinked. And you never corrected me? You never asked. The tension shifted. It was subtle at first. She started walking slower, touched things more carefully. She picked up a branded folder from the front bench, one I'd prepped for a hotel pitch next month. What's this? She asked. Quarterly breakdown for a potential corporate contract, I said. $28,000 deal. Josh coughed. Kayla blinked. But how much do you actually make from this, Dylan? She asked, her voice a little tighter now. Last year? Just shy of $190,000, I said. That's net. She set the folder down like it burned. Then, like clockwork, she pivoted. Well, that's impressive, she said, but that doesn't mean there's no room to scale. Think about it. If we added cabins out back, people could stay here. Experience the process. You'd be the draw, Dylan. You'd be part of the brand. My blood ran hot. You're still trying to turn me into a feature on your brochure, I said. Even now. That's not what I meant, she rushed. I'm saying, why settle for this when it could be something bigger? Josh stepped in. Kayla, no, I mean it, she said, eyes locked on me. I know you're passionate. I respect that. But that doesn't mean you can't evolve. People outgrow things all the time. I didn't say anything, just walked to the back wall and flipped open the office door. They followed. What Kayla saw next stopped her mid-sentence. A full office setup. Filing cabinets, invoices, client contracts, a tax certificate. On the wall, a large frame document. The deed. The land, the building, the business, all in my name. Kayla stared at it, pale. You own all of this, she whispered, since 2017. And then, the twist. I reached into the drawer, pulled out a fresh folder, and handed it to her. She opened it, confused, then froze. Inside were copies of emails, screenshots, and a notarized letter from the local land commissioner's office. I'd submitted a formal complaint because 3 days earlier, Kayla had tried to file a zoning inquiry under my name without telling me. She'd tried to trigger a commercial variance on my land, behind my back. Josh read the page over her shoulder and said nothing. I could press charges, I said, but I won't. Kayla looked up, eyes wide. I just wanted you to see the kind of future you were gambling with, one that already exists, without you in it. I didn't sleep the night after Kayla tried to file zoning paperwork under my name. I kept replaying the moment she saw the deed on the wall. The way her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Like her brain couldn't compute that I had built all of this without her input, her approval, or her permission. I wanted to feel smug. I didn't. I felt wired, tense. Like the muscles in my jaw had been clenched for 6 years and were just now learning how to unlock. It wasn't just what she tried to do, it was how easily she assumed she could. That she could walk into my world, my work, my land, and start moving things around like furniture in someone else's house. Like I was a damn placeholder until a better plan came along. And now? Now it was time to stop letting people think I didn't see it. The following Monday, I met with my attorney, Cora Mitchell, a no-bullshit woman in her 50s who used to teach law in Portland before retiring upstate. I brought her everything. The documents Kayla submitted, the text messages, even the job intern statement about her showing up unannounced. "Can I sue her?" I asked. "You could," she said. "But that's the small move." I raised an eyebrow. Cora leaned forward. "She wanted to hijack your property, your business, and your name. You don't need to sue her, Dylan. You need to outmaneuver her." And so we did. By Wednesday, I'd filed for a commercial use review for a new permit, but not for rental cabins. Instead, I registered the Brooks Woodwork Collective as an educational co-op and trades incubator. I'd already been mentoring guys out of halfway houses, teens from the Job Corps program, and women re-entering the workforce who couldn't afford college. Now it was official. Structured. Backed by grant funding that Cora helped me unlock. I was done letting people think I was just some guy in a dusty shed with nice tools. I wanted Kayla to see what she tried to dismantle. So when she texted me Thursday night, "We should talk. I think things got misunderstood." I didn't respond. I sent her a calendar invite instead. Saturday, 10 a.m. Property review and business transparency meeting. Location, the shop. She confirmed in under a minute. Probably thought it was her chance to save face. But by the time she arrived, the place didn't look the same. I'd asked all my tenants and mentees to be there. Not to gang up on her, but to be visible. Real. Undeniable. Kayla stepped out of her car wearing a long coat and heels, looking every bit the woman who sold dreams to strangers. But the second she stepped inside and saw the crowd, she blinked. "What is this?" she asked. "This," I said, "is what you called a shed." Alina was there, one of my mentees, demonstrating lathe carving to a local high school teacher. Andre was walking a single mom through cabinet assembly basics. In the back, my part-time assistant Matt had a small booth with brochures, actual printed brochures, showing our new workshop course packages. Cora stood by the side, arms crossed, watching Kayla with mild curiosity. "This wasn't here last week," she said. "No," I said. "It's always been here. You just never looked hard enough." Josh showed up late. His face when he saw the sign on the front door, the Brooks Collective, Build More Than Wood, was something I'll never forget. We walked her through the new layout, the permits, the contracts. Cora quietly mentioned how close Kayla's zoning stunt had come to breaking the law. And then I dropped the twist. I pulled out a printed email and slid it across the table. "What's this?" Kayla asked. "Offer letter," I said. "From the State Workforce Board. They want to buy the back half of the lot to build a mobile training unit. 6 figures up front. Grant partnership. Full press release." She read the letter. Her hand actually trembled. "They want to buy the land?" she whispered. "No," I said, leaning back. "I'm selling it, to fund expansion, with a clause that lets me lease it back for $1 a year." She looked like she couldn't breathe. You see, while she was busy trying to carve up my life for her cabin fantasy, I'd carved out a future that didn't include her at all. Kayla didn't say much after I slid the offer letter across the table. She just stared at it, blinking, swallowing, like she just realized the room was filled with people who'd seen her bluff get called, and then buried under facts, contracts, and proof she never even thought to ask for. It should have ended there. But she had one last move. "This feels calculated," she said, her voice shaking. "Like you wanted to humiliate me." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You humiliated yourself the moment you tried to file a zoning request in my name," I said. "You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I was too passive, too small, too emotional to push back." Josh stepped in, quiet but clear. "Kayla, you crossed a line, and not just with Dylan." She turned to him, eyes wide. You're taking his side? No, he said. I'm facing the truth. You didn't try to help Dylan. You tried to control him. And just like that, something cracked in her face. Like she realized she wasn't just losing a deal. She was losing credibility. In front of everyone, including her own husband. I let the silence hang. Then, calmly, I nodded to Cora. She stepped forward and said what I knew Kayla needed to hear out loud. We've submitted a formal record of the unauthorized zoning attempt, Cora said. We've chosen not to press charges this time, but there's now a legal trail. If it happens again, civil or criminal consequences will follow. Kayla's cheeks flushed deep red. I could see her swallow the words she wanted to throw back. But she didn't. Because for the first time since I'd known her, she wasn't holding the cards. She was on the outside looking in, and I wasn't the one being underestimated anymore. A week later, word got around town. People found out what she did. The zoning stunt, the false pretenses, the manipulation. Kayla tried to spin it, said it was all a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, but it didn't land. 2 clients pulled out of escrow deals. 1 small business dropped her as their listing agent. It wasn't career-ending, but it hit where it hurt most, her reputation. Josh and I kept talking after that. He came by the shop more often. Sometimes he didn't say anything, just helped me carry lumber or asked questions about what I was working on. No big speeches, just a quiet effort to show he finally saw me. As for Kayla, she never apologized, but she did move out. 6 weeks after that Saturday. Josh told me she said she needed space to rethink everything. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. That part of the story wasn't mine to fix. What was mine? The business, the land, the people who came through my doors every week, ready to build something with their hands and leave a little stronger than they arrived. We finished renovations on the new training wing 2 months later. The backlot deal went through. That one parcel Kayla called wasted potential now funds 4 part-time instructor jobs and a full scholarship program for formerly incarcerated folks learning trades. And me? I still wake up early, still brew my own coffee, still sand down the edges by hand because I like how the wood feels when it's just right. But I don't make myself smaller anymore. Not for comfort, not for family, and definitely not for anyone who thinks they get to decide what real success looks like. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's the wind-up before you hit back with everything you've built in peace. And when that moment comes, when you finally let people see the truth they refuse to ask about, that's the real revenge. If you've ever had someone try to rewrite your story before they even read it, you're not alone. Drop your thoughts or your own experience in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it or how you wish you did. And if this story hit home, feel free to stick around. I've got more stories to tell.